Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. You know, it looks like there's a lot of people who are more than a little disappointed that some of their favorite celebrities have chosen, of their own free will, to hang out with the Orange Man for his inauguration, even to perform for him, especially some of these musical acts. Trump's going to be having some well-known rappers, in fact, performing for his inaugural ball or some of his other functions related to the inauguration, including people like Nelly and Snoop Dogg. And a lot of the people who are angry with Snoop Dogg right now are surprised that he, of all people, would go to actually perform for Donald Trump. Now, back in 2017, shortly after Trump was sworn into office, Snoop Dogg was in a music video where he pointed a toy gun at a clown made to look just like Trump. Donald Trump himself, back when he was still on Twitter, directly replied to this incident, writing, quote, "Can you imagine what the outcry would be if Snoop Dogg, failing career and all, had aimed and fired the gun at President Obama? Jail time." Up until this week, this was the history that Snoop Dogg and Trump had together, rancorous to say the least. But here we are, 8 years later, and now they're hanging out together and Snoop's doing shows for Trump. I guess he's going to have to do a special rendition of Ain't Nothing But a G Thing with Dr. Dre. I guess they'll rename it Ain't Nothing But a T Thing. Now, I've made it clear exactly what I think about Snoop Dogg. I made a video about him some years back in which I criticized him. It's about the only video I've ever made about him in 17 years. And what was the reason for that video? It was because Snoop Dogg had flip-flopped on another issue. Remember when Gayle King made a total fool of herself when she tried to smear Kobe Bryant right after the man and his daughter had died? The body wasn't even buried yet, and Gayle King was already trying to smear the man, and what she did was she decided in the middle of a totally unrelated interview with a WNBA player that she would ask the woman, "What about Kobe Bryant and some of those rumors about him?" The WNBA player told Gayle that this was not the time or place for that kind of thing, and Gayle was subsequently dragged online, and rightly so. Her white media pals couldn't do anything about it, though they tried. Even Oprah Winfrey came in. "Oh, I just can't believe this is happening." It was glorious. And Snoop Dogg, you'll recall, weighed in on that scandal, rightly calling out Gayle King for the typically reprehensible behavior she had put on, and his Instagram video about her went viral. So since Oprah Winfrey's attempts to run interference for her pal failed, that was when one of Gayle King's other skank pals weighed in. Susan Rice, a reject from the Obama administration, went on a profane-laden rant online in which she whined that Gayle King was principled, which is literally the only time I can think of anyone ever calling Gayle King principled. And in her unhinged rant, she wrote that Snoop Dogg had better back the expletive off. In other words, Susan Rice went gangsta on Snoop. And as a result, Snoop Dogg showed that he just didn't have any G in him, because almost immediately he sniveled and crawled on his belly begging for forgiveness. I guess he was scared that him and that little show with Martha Stewart might get canceled by the white media. Now, a lot of people called themselves getting all gaga because Snoop Dogg weighed in on that issue. They were thinking of him as some sort of hero, but I told you how this one was going to end, and that's exactly how it turned out. Now, we can be disgusted by his predictable display of cowardice and subservience, but don't you dare act surprised. For decade after decade, we've seen plenty of examples of these Negroes who work for the white media who'll talk tough whenever some nonsense goes down detrimental to the black community. But then the moment the white power gives them so much as a disapproving glance, they immediately bow and scrape like the slaves they are. Snoop Dogg had to tuck his tail between his legs. This is precisely why I tell you that we cannot and will not follow these black celebrities, because this is who and what they are. The black media is not the place for spineless cowards or self-interested opportunists, people who pretend to stand on principle, but the instant white power thumps them on the head, they bow down. This is why even when they seem to say something that's reasonable, that's no reason to be following them. That doesn't change anything. Now, there are some black folks, even those around here, who actually worship these celebrities, hang on their every word. And that's why I have so much contempt for so-called entertainment and for the people who are addicted to it. These guys are all self-interested. No matter what few fleeting words they may say, they get the gullible to see them as otherwise, at least for a moment, until they inevitably show their true colors. And of course, we also got to mention Nelly, too. Nelly's also going to be performing for the Orange Man, and he's taking flack for that. And what's Nelly's response to this? Of course, he said, "I'm going to go ahead and perform for him. It's an honor," he said. No, it's not an honor. It's a paycheck, so stop it. Look, you want to get paid, Nelly, that's fine, but don't act like you did it because it's so prestigious. Rappers and big-name singers perform for rich private parties all the time. A lot of you don't know it, but that's true. Certain wealthy individuals pay these big-time celebrities and even athletes big money to come to their birthday party or to put on a private show at their estates or whatever. This practice is far more common than you think. It's a good way for a lot of these celebrities to make some money on the side. So instead of Nelly trying to make this sound principled, he would have been better off just saying the truth. Hey, somebody's going to get that check from Trump and I got bills to pay. It would have at least been honest. Of course, it reminds me of Ice Cube. There were a lot of people who decided to swallow the line from him, hook, line, and sinker, when he was talking about a contract for Black America. It sounded good, at least for a minute, didn't it? And it's a shame, because if you follow the black media, you never would have gotten carried away. This is the reason why for over 15 years I've told you that I don't jump on these bandwagons or go gaga when some celebrity says something that sounds halfway reasonable. Because in the end, time is the only thing that separates the real from the phony. Time. Not some one-and-done Twitter tweet, not an Instagram video, or a few public statements. Ice Cube overnight went from talking about a contract with Black America to hanging out with one of the arch anti-black mouthpieces of our time, Tucker Carlson, in which Ice Cube couldn't wait to say, well, racism, a bit much about it, they make too much of it. Yeah, that's what he was saying whenever he was in front of his white paymasters or people adjacent to them. So it doesn't matter if it's Snoop Dogg, Nelly, Ice Cube, these Negroes will sit here and be trying to talk all pro-black when they think that it's to their advantage, but you let Massa sit in front of them and all of a sudden they'll be singing the exact opposite tune. Yeah, Snoop Dogg can go from having a video where he's pointing a toy gun at Trump and apparently shooting him, to all of a sudden, let's just go ahead and hang out with Trump. It's all good. We'll go ahead and get blowed together, all the rest of it. And as for Nelly, I have to wonder if either Ivanka Trump or one of Trump's daughters is going to be in his next video with Nelly swiping a credit card between her butt cheeks. Only time will tell. But the point that I'm making is one that I've said in the past, particularly about people like, say, Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. You got to understand, when these black celebrities call themselves talking about blackness, quote unquote, at least their version of it, they're speaking specifically about themselves. They are not talking about black people as a collective. These people don't care about black people as a collective. Doesn't matter who these black celebrities are, it's always the same pattern. The boundaries of their so-called blackness begins and ends with themselves. Whenever they're referring to something, if they seem to be pretending like they're mentioning us, it's only so that they can get us to rally behind them. They understand how important it is that whenever they do something, they got to make sure they get some black folks behind them for the optics. For the black bootlicks of the white media, clout, or at least the appearance of it, is the only coin of the realm. That's what you had Byron Allen doing when he had the A-dunce clowns trying to pump up his doggone Supreme Court case. And we all see how that didn't have anything to do with anyone other than him. You see how the game is played? Doesn't matter if he's these rappers or these singers or so-called entertainers, of which Byron Allen is one. That's where Byron Allen came out of. He came out of the so-called entertainment industry, though for the life of me, I still can't remember what entertainment this guy allegedly did. These guys want to be invited to their little parties in the Hollywood Hills so they can go ahead and do their networking or professional butt kissing and try to set up their next deal. They are out for themselves, and only a fool allows themselves to forget about that. That's how you can have a situation like this. Snoop Dogg is flip-flopped. It surprises you, but it shouldn't surprise anyone else. This is the game that these guys play in the industry that they work in, and Trump understands this too. That's the point. You may be surprised, but Donald Trump's not. This is yet another reminder that these black celebrities have far more in common with the Donald Trumps of the world than they do with you and me. They have a lot more in common with the Elon Musks and all of these other races that we complain about than they do with the black grassroots. So whenever you see these guys seeming to be talking about something affecting black people, they're actually talking about their own feelings about it, how it relates to them specifically. They're not thinking about us. They're not trying to get black empowerment. The only thing they're trying to get is the so-called bag. They may drop the mic, but they're not about to drop that bag. Understand that. And while they are going to be doing their usual singing and dancing for the amusement of Trump and his pals, the reality is, when these guys are in front of us pretending to stand in solidarity with us, that's when they're actually performing. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Josh Heath, Andre Evans, Brian Ellis, Miss Incognito 72, and Gina Jones. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.